We all know that healthy people do not make big corporations and governments money. Healthy people are no good. If you're healthy, then you're not making anybody any money because you're too healthy. If you're sick, on the other hand, that is a big bonus, because you're going to need certain things, aren't you? You're going to need medication for one thing, and that can be quite expensive. You're going to need medical treatment as well, and that also can be expensive. Not necessarily for you, but the money comes to the people who are supplying that medical treatment. If you're not very well, it might mean that you need additional services from perhaps the council or indeed the government, which of course has got to be paid for somehow or other. Or you may find that you need to actually have to go and buy certain things to help you, whether that's a wheelchair, a Zimmer frame, a walking stick, and many of the other aids that are out there. And if you're a young kiddie, well, you may need all sorts of things, and some people have had to revamp their whole house in order to maintain some sort of sense of living, and that's become extremely expensive. Sick people make other people lots of money. I was reminded about this really for two things. One, from a correspondent to the channel, but also while we were lambing. Now, as you know, I've been out down to Devon and we're lambing, and we've put together a little documentary just to remind people, I suppose, about where their food comes from, that it isn't just pre-packaged on a supermarket. It doesn't just appear magically as much as perhaps some of the supermarkets would like you to believe, but actually there is a whole network of dedicated people who are putting together and growing and nurturing food, and it's a hard slog. I'm talking about farmers mostly. So I was reminded about that when we were lambing, about the importance of, with the lambing, and the amount of care that the farmers go to get these lambs from the ewes and make sure they're nurtured and make sure they're healthy. Because ultimately it's all going to end up on a plate for somebody to eat. And yet when it comes to human babies, it seems that this has become a bit more of an assembly line, like in a factory. Yes, pull them out quick and send them off into the world. Now, on the one hand, this is being sold as we can do it very quickly, so you don't have to suffer, you poor pregnant woman. Don't panic, we'll just now use a cesarean. That seems to be the modern way, isn't it? You no longer have to use a natural birth of pushing through in the traditional way. We can just unzip you with the knife and stitch you up, and that's it. And that has, when it's a necessary emergency to do that, then obviously that is a medical miracle that we can do that. But ordinarily that wouldn't be an advisable way, in my humble opinion, because you're missing out on so many important things that baby needs for life. By having a natural birth, of course, you would, of course, push the baby out. It would be attached to the umbilical cord. And what should happen, and what used to happen, was you would then wait for all the blood in the umbilical cord, in the placenta, to go into the baby, so that all the nutrients go into that young child, so that it has the best life it possibly can. All the immune systems is working. Everything that the mother has had to prepare that child for a healthy life is through that umbilical cord. And we see that with the lambing, that it's very essential that once the lambs are born, that they feed on the mother's colostrum as well. And that is, of course, where breastfeeding comes in. Again, those very important few moments or few months when the child is born, to get all the nutrients from the mother, that the necessary building blocks for health passes on. And that's what should happen. It doesn't though, does it? Let's face it, we do know, and my correspondent, who is an ex-doctor, was telling me, he says, no, that doesn't happen. We get the baby out, we cut the cord, we get him off, and, we often say, stick him on some powdered milk, and away you go. And what then happens, of course, is you're not getting the nutrients into the child and they become somewhat sickly. And sickly people, we know, make other people lots of money. And that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing, not for that sickly person. And then what we do is when they get to so many weeks or months, we decide that the world out there is so awful that we have to inject them with certain things at such a young age when the body is still becoming into its own. It's beginning to develop its own immune system. And yet the doctors and the medical professions, the petrochemicals and various things will start to put something which is alien into the child's body. And we have seen, have we not, the cases of autism and ADHD go through the roof. We've seen children having all sorts of issues and problems. But don't panic. A sick society is very good for large corporations and government because they earn a lot of money from it, it would seem to me. This is just my humble opinion, of course, and you can absolutely disregard everything I say, and I no doubt some people will, and say that these medical interventions are absolutely essential. We saw that, did we not, in 2020 when we were told about a certain problem that was floating about the atmosphere, and a year later, at the speed of science, a lot of people were given a certain medical intervention, which now is causing, again, lots of problems for people, and some people have died as a result of it, and it's tragic. Again, if people take responsibility for their lives, if people actually think about nature and what is right and proper, rather than being guided by people, say, in white coats or people in Parliament, then perhaps we'd be a lot healthier and we'd be able to fight off a number of things. Perhaps our brains would be clearer. We wouldn't have fog. If we perhaps didn't watch the television quite so much and believe everything that's being told to us in mainstream media, perhaps then we wouldn't be guided to do things in this very hurried way. Everything is such a rush. The assembly line of having children. I also read that recently somebody sent me a thing to say germs. And can actually, a new research has come out to say that germs, you know, ordinary everyday germs, getting your hands dirty in the mud and things like that, can help produce vitamin C in the body. Now, I don't know how true that is, but it seems to make perfect sense to me. When I was a kid, I used to muck about and go into all sorts of places. I used to, where I lived, backed onto an old farm, derelict farm. We used to play in what we called the orchard. It was an overgrown orchard. It was long disused. And we used to dig and play and climb trees and fall off. And we, you know, babies naturally want to put earth and things into their mouths. Now, I'm not suggesting that you do for a moment. Or indeed play on farms at the moment if they're spraying all sorts of glyphosate and various other dangerous chemicals on and depleting the soil. But what I am saying is that a lot of people these days are so scared of germs, of ordinary things like that. We've been led to believe that we need these antibacterial sprays everywhere, bleach the surfaces, kill everything, as if that the world that we live in is one poisoned atmosphere, one not by humans who are poisoning it. We know about the spraying of the sky and the pollution of the water with all sorts of things and the pollution from EMFs. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the natural elements. We're led to believe that the natural world is not a friendly world. You know, Darwin came out with the survival of the fittest, didn't he? And we're sort of led to believe that everything is there to attack us, and if we're not fit and strong enough, we will never survive. And yet this report says, well, we need a few germs to help ourselves create vitamin C. We need to expose ourselves to the sunshine. We were told many, many times, were we not, that, oh my goodness, the sun, it's so evil, it's so mean and nasty. We have to coat ourselves in some barrier cream every time we go out. And if we don't, we'll get some horrendous problem and we might die early. And we think to ourselves, do we not? Or at least some people who've got some modicum of intelligence and think, hold on a minute, all these messages, all this sort of sales stuff for certain creams to protect us from natural elements has only been around for the last 80 odd years, perhaps a bit longer. In the old days, people managed to survive. And you do think, crikey, you know, man, whatever form man has been here for many, many years, long before mainstream media, long before the dark forces managed to sort of get their grips on everybody else and persuade people that the environment is a terrible thing. And we've survived. We've survived, thanks very much indeed. In fact, we've survived so well in the past that we had healthier lives than we do now. And yet with all the modern science, and yet with all the modern medications, and yet with all the wonderful technology that we've got, we seem to have got ourselves into a very sick society. So sick that we don't really know what now is healthy for us, and that we're much more inclined to go to, say, a supermarket and have nutrient-free, vitamin-deficient food because it's there and it's convenient, rather than actually using our brains and thinking, actually, do you know what I actually want? If I'm going to eat meat, I'm going to have grass-fed, organic meat as best I can. I know it's expensive, but I put my health above, I don't know, say a Netflix account. I put my health above the ease of just nipping round the corner to a supermarket and feeding my children, who have already had certain things put into their bodies. They haven't had their mother's milk. They haven't had the nutrients from the placenta. I'm going to put into their mouths now food that is substantial and barely has anything of any value whatsoever worth to it. And that seems to be a very sad state of affairs. You see people still with their phones walking down the streets, being guided on every move that they do. So much so that now, just to go round the corner, one needs to turn the sat-nav on, just in case, you know, the road is a little bit busy, or I can't remember how I got to Uncle Joe's house. It does seem a bit strange. Yes, sick people make others very wealthy indeed. So for goodness sake, do not take any measures to make yourself healthy. Do not take back control of your lives, because that will, those poor corporations, those poor government officials, they're not going to make any money out of you if you remain healthy or use critical thinking or use a lot of common sense. For goodness sake, do stay dumb as you can and let these people do everything for you, because otherwise they're just not going to make ends meet. And you've got to feel sorry for these corporations. Personally, I don't feel sorry for them at all. The sad part for them is the old system is crumbling as we, an educated society, the age of communication, are beginning to realise that everything that we've been told is upside down, is not quite right, and that nature, it has a much better way of helping us than the scientific, the science, the medical, the petrochemicals, these leaders who are trying to herd us into one direction to have things like 5G and smart meters and fluoride in the water and hiding the sun because of a nonsense of global warming. Yes, I believe that the system is crumbling because we're beginning to realise that all this nonsense that we've been told is actually just that, nonsense, and something to be ignored in the future. And finally, I just want to say thank you so much for everybody who's keeping this channel going. I am demonetized from YouTube, so I do rely on your very generous offers of a few shekels here, there and everywhere. You can actually help contribute and buy me some gold and silver by using one of the links below. Just make a donation of, say, I don't know, £5 or whatever you want. Of course, there's the PayPal one too. And also don't forget that we have the forum, which you can discuss these things a little more if you so wish. It's in one of the, I always forget when I'm doing it, which side, I think it's that side, the link down there. And finally, the interview that I've done, not the interview, the documentary I've done with the lambing, and that I'm aiming to release it on Tuesday, the 8th. It will be at 6 o'clock as a premiere. So if you want to watch it as a premiere and have a conversation about it and all of that, you'll be very welcome. It's a 30-minute, lovely, beautifully filmed, I have to say, even though I'm patting myself on the head, lovely little documentary about lambing in Devon with some very wonderful farmers to remind ourselves where food came from. Thanks for watching.